Thanks for tuning in to the Old Dirty Basement. On this week's episode, we're covering serial killer Israel Keyes. So this is a name that you might not be aware of, but I promise you after this podcast, you probably won't forget it either. This guy was terrifying. He was a serial killer like we mentioned. He was a burglar, kidnapper, rapist, bank robber, just an all-around bad dude. The ending of this story is really sickening. It's a crazy one. We hope you're enjoying our podcast. If you're on Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you're at, hit that 5-star rating, hit that follow button, and don't miss out on our content. And on Apple Podcasts, you can leave a written review. That would really help us out. We would really appreciate it. And sit back, relax, and enjoy our coverage of Israel Keyes.
This is the Old Dirty Basement, home to debauchery, madness, murder, and mayhem. A terror-filled train ride deep into the depths of the devil's den.
With a little bit of humor,
history, and copious consciousness.
I'm your announcer, Shallow Throat. Your hosts are Dave, Matt, and Zap. I love you, Matthew McConaughey. All right, all right, all right.
Hey, this is Dave,
Matt, and Zap.
And welcome to the Old Dirty Basement,
where every week we cover a true crime,
murder,
or compelling story.
So sit back,
relax,
and comprehend.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, all you cellar dwellers. We are in the basement yet again. With me always is Dave and Zap. Good evening, gentlemen.
How's it going?
Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you all. We hope you're enjoying the podcast. We hope you're listening in today, and we have a good story for everyone tonight. What do we have there, Dave?
Yeah, this is Israel Keyes, and this one was brought up by Matt. I did hear stories about this guy before. I heard a couple other podcasts maybe a few years ago that covered him. It's a very insane story.
Yeah, a lot of people say the serial killer that no one's ever heard of. They don't know too much about this guy.
I gotta admit, I had never heard of this guy until he was recommended, dare I say, suggested by our cohort, Matt.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, this guy's like close to, these crimes happened very close to the current time right now, which is crazy. A lot of these serial killers you cover 20, 30 years ago, things like that. And this is not that long ago. So,
yeah, I think he was around our age. I think he was born in 78.
Yeah, 78.
So, yeah, a lot of the murders happened, like 10 years ago?
Yeah, a couple of years our junior, but right around that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But like I said, I did hear a lot on this guy. There's a very good documentary on Oxygen Network. It's called Method of a Serial Killer, and it's on Israel Keyes. It's like an hour and a half. There's a lot of footage of him in interrogation, a lot of crime scene stuff, interviews with the family members and stuff like that. So it was cool to put faces to the names and stuff of people that were involved, family members. This guy is a shitbag, though. It was, I listened to him interviewed. It was just unsettling.
This guy is diabolical.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing the story, he, when we get into him a little bit, you find out about his beginnings, the way he acted, stuff that he did, family background, completely not as messed up as a lot of people we look at, but he was on a good track.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you guys?
I think he certainly set his own path for this one.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys get to listen to any of his interviews with FBI interviews? Did you hear any of the dialogue or anything like that?
I listened to a few.
Yeah.
I saw that thing on the Oxygen channel. I saw that as a possibility, and I wish, if there were only enough time.
Oh, I know.
I would certainly love to have seen that. That's now, after all of the research, after all of the greedy into this guy since then, man, I really do want to see that.
I put it on today, and actually when I was about halfway through, I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but Matt caught a little bit of it with me. And so I have to sit down after the fact here as well and watch the whole thing. But I definitely think it's interesting to see. And like I said, they cut in a lot of the interviews, and it was just.
And with the remorse, he was very twisted. The way he would laugh or talking about his Well, he didn't really admit too much, which we'll get into. But talking about the things that he did or the things that they would say to him, he would have like a very strange, just like a laugh about like
almost like the Joker or something.
yes, like a
Yeah.
That's a great foreshadow into what we're going to get into, because we're truly going to get into the mind of a maniac.
Well, while you're starting out in his mind, like when we were watching some of these shows about him, they were saying, I forgot where I was going to go with this. Oh, we were going to get into it. We were going to get into this story a little bit different than the other stories, starting at one of his murders, and then we'll get into the story from there, I guess. Try
Right.
something here different.
Mm-hmm. So Zach, why don't you start us off? Give us a little taste.
So what we're going to get into is eventually on the night of February 1st, 2012, 18-year-old Alaskan barista Samantha Koenig was kidnapped from her place of employ. Her hands were tied with zip ties. She was thrown into a car, driven around for hours, eventually made her way to a shed on a property she sure as hell didn't know. She was left there while the assailant returned to her work, grabbed whatever he could, ended up going to her boyfriend's truck to grab an ATM card, later returned to rape and strangle her.
And that was all in the shed, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is Israel Keys.
Yeah. And that was near the end of his story here, but there's a lot after that, and obviously a lot before that.
A shit ton before.
A ton, but just to kind of show you what kind of maniac we're dealing with. And there's way more detail on what we were just talking about, but that alone should grab you. I would hope.
That's why we put it there.
Yeah. And you would just want to get in the mind of this guy. And that's what we try to do on here, is kind of like put our like kind of spin on it and what we think maybe these guys are thinking. But I mean, how can you figure somebody like this out? It's just crazy. But I guess we should start in the beginning then.
Go for it, man.
All right. Well, Israel Keys is the most infamous killer you've never heard of. He was born in Cove, Utah on January 7th, 1978. He is the second child of 10 born to Hattie and John Jeffrey Keys. So this guy started with 10 kids in his family.
Yep.
And he was the second.
Yep.
So a full household there.
We know a family like that.
Yes, I was going to say that. Hattie and John, they were kind of like hippie type people. So you imagine having 10 kids. But where they grew up, they didn't believe in modern medicine, public schools. They hated authority. They hated the government. Yeah, what do you call them? Hippies, I guess? Or
They're for damn sure hippies. So, but at this point, I would call them survivalists. They were independent.
And this is like late 70s.
Yeah,
Right? So he's born 78. So
These guys were off the grid before there was a grid.
yes, I think they moved to Colville, Washington State, and they lived far off in the woods, where most people couldn't even survive. And the home had no heat or electricity. So these kids grew up like no music, they weren't allowed music actually, because I think their parents were crazy religious. If anybody heard any of that.
So from what I've read, they started out as Mormons. So this is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yes, yes.
So over the course of time, while that had worked out to an extent, they had later changed up to a form of Christianity.
Yeah, I think fundamentalist Christians, I believe they were
which
called.
Keys later described as Amish-like, which of course is fundamentalist. And then they later converted to British Israelism.
that's the one. Yeah.
Right. So British Israelism is basically the people of Britain, by virtue of their race, their creed, their whatever. They're members of the lost tribes of Israel. That notwithstanding, as Matt, I'm sure, had alluded, they were homeschooled. Everything was essentially self-sufficient.
During this time also, I think they joined a white supremacist group in one of the churches.
No.
You didn't read about that? Was that the fundamentalists, one of them? Or
What you are referring to is the religion itself alluded to being white supremacist.
That the
Okay.
whites were like the original.
Yeah, the
Jews.
original, yeah.
Yeah.
That is ultimately a part of the British Israelism.
So they were thinking that white British people were the original Jewish people. Is that what they were saying?
They are derived directly from the original tribes of Israel,
Oh, wow.
which is shocking to me. I mean, really, come on. This is Israel.
Right.
This is the desert. Just so in your mind, think Saudi, think anything of that whole area. Good luck finding a Caucasian native born in that area.
Right.
And it was just the silliness of the religion,
Mm-hmm.
that notwithstanding.
So yes, I guess Israel Keys grew up in these wooded areas. He grew up hunting, which he loved. He would also break into homes at an early age, and he would like to look for different things, mostly guns.
Yeah, but still weapons, they said.
Yes, he would enjoy that as a youth. That was something that he liked to do. Also, Keys enjoyed torturing animals and said he liked to pursue anything with a heartbeat. That was his direct quote. He did one time admitted to skinning a deer alive in front of friends at his church.
Did you hear the part about what his parents, when they caught him stealing the weapons and selling them? Did you guys hear any of that? So he was stealing weapons, like Matt was saying, out of...
He was breaking into people's houses.
Right, and stealing weapons. And
Yeah.
stuff.
Looking for guns and knives and anything that you could kill with.
Right,
Pretty much.
the parents were just basically like, hey, give them back. There was like no real
'Cause they were
punishment
hippies.
or anything like that. And the other thing was he was like out hunting with those stolen weapons
Mm-hmm.
and doing different things. And like you said, they were hunter-gatherers surviving off the land and doing all that. So they were, eating all the meat and stuff of the animals that he was killing and all that with these stolen weapons.
So in addition to the petty theft, so as a youth, if my understanding is correct, he certainly got into petty crimes. Typically, the first things first, it was property damage. So he was shooting BB guns at the
That was
house,
one of his things.
starting fires in the woods,
Oh, whoa.
breaking and entering,
See what
and
you're
then
saying there?
burglary.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with robbery. Robbery and burglary.
Two different
Burglary, completely different things.
But I was going to say, back to what you alluded to again, is the setting fires. He also tortured animals. You guys remember what that's going back to?
Yeah, back to the McDahmer.
Yeah,
The McDahmer triangle.
Yes.
It all comes back to the McDahmer triangle.
But this is somebody that just fits right in there. So this guy, he wasn't, shooting blanks out there. He was actually doing research on this stuff here.
Let's not forget that while this guy was allegedly, as he may have claimed, to torture animals, he was also hunting for his own food.
Yes.
If it hasn't been mentioned already, this guy grew up in a cabin with no electricity, no running water, and they all had to fend for themselves.
Like
Like,
shit outside in a hole.
yeah. So,
Nasty.
as you're killing your own food, some things are going to happen. So if somebody sees you killing and skinning a deer or doing whatever, it's okay. It's what happens.
Right. It's not a big deal. Talking about the...
I'm making light of this, of course, because he did, in fact, torture the shit out of animals.
yeah.
big time.
Yes, he did.
With the cat and everything. But back to the BB gun, he was shooting BB guns into people's houses and stuff like that. I have a story about that. When I was about 14, there's a kid I grew up with. You guys know him. I'm not going to name names. We were hanging out at his house. There was a grocery store, like a little mom and pop grocery store down below his house. He had this BB gun he got. We lived in the city. He's shooting the BB gun out in his yard. We had targets set up. Not very smart. They were set up facing the store down below.
Right. Just in case you miss the target,
Right.
you're going to hit the goddamn store.
Hit the store and hit a person.
Oh.
So we're down in his basement, kind of like putting the gun out. You know how basements have the little windows?
Of course.
If you can picture that.
Little halfway above ground windows.
Right. He's poking a gun out, shooting at the targets. One obviously misses the target, goes down and hits somebody. Cops come. We all get taken downtown to the. I was scared. I was 14 years old,
Dang.
and we, because this BB did some damage, I guess, to the person.
Of course.
They put you in juvie.
No,
No,
but we had there was like 5 of us there. We had to go
Lock up.
down, and the guy, the kid that was responsible, fessed up. It was like, look, it was me. They were just there, but we were all, because we were there, we all had to go down. For me being 14 at the time, it was frightening. But it made me think of that reading this guy's story about shooting BB guns into people's houses and stuff. You don't think of that doing damage, but you can hurt somebody with that.
Yeah.
Let that be a lesson to all you kids out there
Yeah.
listening to this podcast. Do not shoot BBs where a corner store is the backdrop, possible end point of the result of your shooting BBs.
Right.
No
Yeah.
Red Riders for Christmas this year
No.
or the holiday season.
No. But yeah.
But anyway, real quick with the MacDonald triad here. So he has the cruelty to animals. He got the fire starting. He likes fires. The only thing he's not doing is the bed pee-pee, which we don't know if he was
Maybe
or
he
not.
was.
I mean, with 10 kids, I mean, they're probably pissing all over the place. You don't know.
Could be.
It's a house of piss.
Right.
Yes.
Let's not forget, again, also, this is a cabin.
Right.
Who's going to know if you're pissing on the wood?
It probably smells like shit already.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Parents don't care. They're just making more babies.
Right. But that McDahmer try, that's taken off. Like a lot of people are bringing that term up. I think you created something. I think Zach,
Wait, McDahmer or McDonald?
you called it McDahmer.
I sure did, because it's a play on words. A portmanteau, as it were.
Right, and people love it. Like people brought up McDahmer triad, so that's I think that might be like the 2022 like word. You know, maybe it'll make its rounds. And
Oh
stuff.
man, if that
dictionary.
makes its way to Merriam-Webster,
Maybe,
Yes.
might be.
set sail.
Yes.
Pack your bags.
Yeah, okay. So, at the age of 14, Keys said he knew there were things that I thought were normal and that were okay that nobody else seemed to think were normal and okay. Anybody get that? It's weird stuff.
Yeah, well, that sounds like you said, Dahmer said stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, actually, he was a fan. I mean, we'll get into that a little bit later.
Was he a Dahmer fan though, or
Bundy?
Bundy,
No.
yeah, I was gonna
Ted
say.
Bundy. Ted Bundy was,
his idol?
yes, very much so.
This is at the age of 14.
Yes.
Okay.
Also, at the age of 14, I read that Keys tied a cat to a tree, and it was with some sort of cable or whatever.
Like a bungee, yeah.
Yes, and he kept shooting at it with a 22
That's
pistol.
That's
No?
Nope.
No.
He didn't shoot at the cat. Instead, he was jamming at it with a 22 revolver. So he was goring it.
It said gored it, yes, but I think he was holding it and shooting it. And as the cat was, no? Is that not? No.
Think of taking a pen in your hand and jamming it into the cat. Instead, he was doing that with a gun.
See, I thought he
into
shot him
cat.
too. I didn't
Yeah,
even
that's what I
catch
thought
that.
he meant by goring him.
Yeah, so goring, if they would have indicated that if the sources from which this whole conversation derived would have alleged or in any way, shape, or form indicated that a bullet or some kind of projectile had been fired, they would have certainly said so.
Well,
This is just goring it. So just poking and
Poking at
poking
it.
and poking and poking and poking.
Mhm.
In some cases, so you can gore. So someone can get gored by, let's say, a bull, where there's a sharp pointy end. Well, that sharp pointy end of that bull's head is going to jam into you and blood's going to come out. In this case, goring also includes wounding in some way, shape, or form without necessarily penetration. So here is for example. If I were to stand next to you,
We get it.
and jam my finger into your side for 10 minutes,
You would be goring him.
I would be goring you.
So what were you going to say there, Dave?
I was going to say, actually, on that documentary, he knew at that point, this is like, I cannot go out in the woods with somebody and do the things that I want to do, because he thought it was like normal behavior, like you were saying. And when he saw his friend's reaction, that they were like throwing up, and like he was like, oh, I guess I'm not like other people. So he made that comment in the interrogation about this whole story, that at that point he knew he was different and he had to hide everything. So that's kind of where everything switched with him. He was like, well, I'm going to have to be like by myself now.
Yep.
Because he didn't, I guess with his friend was there and he watched him as he gored the cat with the 22. The cat was like going nuts, wrapped itself around the tree, smacked against the tree.
Puked.
Yes, the cat threw up, and then his friend was like, look at this. So the cat throws up, then the friend throws up. Then he's looking at them like, why are you guys throwing
he's
up?
laughing.
It's fun,
It's like the Stand By Me Barfarama.
Yes.
It just like kind of goes one to the next.
And then when I guess the kid went and told his dad like what went on, the dad was like, man, this shit ain't happened. Like, what are you talking about?
Oh, he thought he was lying about it.
Yeah, he thought he was like making something up. Like, who would do that?
Right.
Like,
What kind of kid does
yeah,
this?
there's no
Right.
kid that does
What
that.
kind of upstanding Mormon Christian kid does this?
Mhm.
Yeah,
But Dave, to your point, that is in fact where, this dude said, forget this. I want to keep doing this,
Mhm.
but I can't do it in front of my friends.
Right. I got to keep it secret.
Yeah, so he shuts it down for a little bit. He tries to keep the cat killing and stuff to himself. Doesn't really do much. In his teenage years, Keys distanced himself from his family and all of their religious beliefs. So, he's pretty much stepping back. He's getting away. He started doing the Satanism stuff. Did you guys read that?
There was some shit that happened before he got into Satanism.
True.
Well, I read the part about his mother with the music. He
Oh,
was
they
like
weren't
starting to
allowed.
listen to music, different
Yeah.
music, and she was like, something started to switch in him. Now, they didn't really say at that time what bands, but I heard that it was like, metal music and stuff like that. And they were totally against all that. So,
Oh, and his favorite group was the ICP.
yeah, Insane Clown Posse.
I did
Yes,
see that.
everybody.
Now, that
did see
I saw that later then. In the,
Which I've seen them. I saw them live at the Trocadero.
with the Fago.
Yeah, with the Fago.
Damn.
It was crazy.
So to my understanding,
Crazy. Yes, go back to what you said before the
no.
Satanism.
I mean, I've been known to be wrong. It happened once, but
It happened once.
Yeah, to my knowledge, once.
In a galaxy far, far away.
In 97, he and his folks and his whole family, they moved to Maine, where they collected sap for maple syrup production for an Amish community.
Sapists.
So, after a childhood of growing up in squalor, again, you're living in no electrics, no water,
shackled down, snacking.
12 people in one room cabin. Having to so movies exist. He had to go to his friend's house to sneak around and watch movies. And so to what you had mentioned, Dave, he was forbidden to learn musical instruments. He had enough. Like, he was done. So finally, to Matt's point now about the Satanism, he ended up getting in an argument with his folks. And that's the point at which he claimed to be, just out of frustration, fury, anger, claimed to be an atheist. Not long after, he got kicked out of his house. And as a result of getting not just kicked out of the house, understand how this works. Like, in the true, let's say, just for example, since we're around here and we are familiar with it, the Amish community, there's a thing called shunning.
Right, they kick you out, basically.
In shunning, you are completely cut off.
I like that movie.
The Shunning?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Shunning's a great movie because you can never see anybody's face.
Right.
Because they're all turned away from you.
Right.
The shun.
So that is, in fact, what a shunning is. No talk, no nothing, no communication. You're basically a ghost to these people. You are completely ignored. So he was shunned not just by his parents, but also his 9, other brothers and sisters. This is the point. This is the point where he says, forget it. I'm going to become a Satanist. And this is also the point at which he began to plan his first murder.
He knew what he wanted to do.
Yep.
So Satan, well, yeah, he's going to turn to somebody after growing up with that shit, like all his life, just listening to mom and dad push. I mean,
ultra religious.
Yeah, you're gonna go back from what they're pushing on you, of course. Plus, he's a teenager.
Right, and he's getting a taste, like Zap was saying, he's getting a taste of all this at friends' house, like music and movies and stuff, and he's probably like, what am I missing,
Just a little taste.
Just a little taste, yeah.
So this brings us from his birth in 78 to homes he moved to Utah, Washington State, and Maine, where he's at now, correct?
At this point, yes.
He grew up in a family with 10 brothers and sisters, so 12 living in a house the size of the old dirty basement. He liked killing and torturing animals, setting fires. What else do we got on this guy here?
I heard he was a good carpenter, and at about 16, he was able to build his own
little cabin. Yeah, he redid it for him. He made an extension.
He built the whole family a cabin.
A cabin, yeah.
He made it was a 2-bedroom cabin, I believe, instead of the 1 deluxe.
Sure, double wide cabin.
Model.
Speaking of which, I love watching on YouTube. You ever watch those guys that they'll do a video of them building a cabin from scratch?
Sure.
And they it's so cool to watch, and how these guys do that, and they'll use existing, wood.
He probably used wood, and then he used mud, and threw it together some moss on the roof.
It's all time lapse, but they'll do it in maybe 2 weeks time, but they'll condense it in a half-hour video. So to be handy like that, this kid at 16, of course, with his upbringing, had to learn all these cool trades and stuff.
So anyway, he was kind of fed up with everything. I was looking around, and I guess what is the next logical choice for this guy? What do you guys think?
I don't know, but you're going to tell us.
Yes, I am. The United States Army.
Well, if he's in, going into the military to kill, maybe thinking if I go into, if he has that urge, do you think maybe he's thinking in the military, if he goes into combat?
Well, we see, a lot of these serial killers. I don't know I don't know how many numbers or whatever, but I wonder how many have been in the military or any kind of murderers or serial killers.
Do you think somebody like that, he has feels that need? You think they would go in the military thinking that, or do you think that's something that,
as a last resort?
No, basically, I have an urge to kill, go in the military, engage in combat.
Such a thing certainly does exist.
Yeah.
It does.
I was just curious, if maybe that had in the back of his head, I'll go in here and maybe hopefully see some combat if he has that urge, but because it's, I know later in the story, he doesn't have a certain type.
Yeah.
He just wants to kill.
Yes. It was sometime before his military service that Israel allegedly committed a sexual assault to a teenage girl. He said he attacked her with a knife and violently sexually assaulted her. He did want to murder her, and he wanted to murder her for Satan, but he could not go through with it. Now, what do you guys got? Any information on this alleged sexual assault?
Alleged is correct. So you're going to see once we get to the end, or not even the end, once we get to the point at which this jagoff gets, captured and he has his back and forth, which lasts for months. There are allegations from the cops, I should say the authorities.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that he claims, and somewhere in the middle, the truth lies. At this point, this is, again, what is alleged.
Yes, he said this happened.
Yeah.
Nothing was reported. Nothing and I think if an incident, something like that occurred, she would have said something.
Yeah, so this is the guy. Maybe alleged was the wrong word earlier. This is claimed. So I want to keep those two camps very clear.
Mm-hmm.
Claimed versus alleged. So claimed is him. Alleged is the authorities. This one is claimed by him. Oh, well, I did this. I did that. For all we know, it could be him just trying to throw people off. Fuck it. I'm going to claim all of the murders for the last 20 years. Yeah, I did it all. We'll see. We'll see. But yes, as Matt had said, it was the summer of 97 or 98. He stalked this teenage girl from a tree line. So he just followed her down the river as she's tubing. Now, can you imagine? Now, I go tubing, with the exception of this past summer, in central Pennsylvania, where water levels were incredibly low all of the goddamn time.
Yeah, all summer. Pretty bad.
This dude is just hanging out in the trees, following this broad.
It's kind of like Deliverance. You haven't seen that yet, but they do that. They do that in Deliverance as they're going down the creek there. Go ahead, but they're in the bushes.
He's
binoculars.
He's following her down the Deschutes River.
Deschutes and ladders.
Deschutes and ladders is right. He ended up grabbing her out of the water, held her at knife point, and sexually assaulted her. To be clear, did not rape, but sexually assaulted. There is a difference.
Mm-hmm.
There's an absolute difference. So for clarity, sexually assaulted, not rape.
It could have been like just grabbing her in sexual ways, touching.
Some boob touch, maybe
touching
like
her bathing suit
a
areas.
little butt touch,
Mm-hmm.
little just, grazing the hand around the curvy sections.
See, he could have, what he admitted, I think it was, he probably did see somebody tubing. He probably went down there, got weird with the girl, but I don't think any of the other stuff really happened. There was no knife. It was something to build his story, make his ego when he was talking to the cops sound like, look what I could have done.
That's it. Look at me. That's the claim versus the alleged.
Well, that was actually in the Oxygen documentary, his recording with the interrogators and stuff, who he was talking to. And he said that the girl's name was either Lena or Leah. And basically, when he grabbed her out of the water, she got separated from the pack. She was with like a group and got separated. And he pulled her out of the water. She was very obviously, scared and all that. But she was able to sweet talk him. And that's why he wasn't able to go through it. She was like, "Oh, you're so good looking. Why would you do this?"
Like, sounds made up.
That's what. Yeah, that's because he's the one telling the story. He was like, "You're so good looking. Why would you? I would date you if this wasn't happening. Like, you don't need to do this and this and that." And it was having him have second thoughts, like, oh, and he said it worked. He let her go without killing her. He didn't have the balls to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, for like 2 years, it kept eating at him. Like, I should have just did it. I should have killed her. Like, he was upset that he didn't.
Yeah.
But she was smart enough to kind of play his ego and be like, no, you don't need to do this. Like, and he was taught, that was from him. Though, like
building an ego of his own story made up to please himself.
It is,
I believe.
So, and I'll concur with Matt on this.
Mm-hmm.
To that end, there is someone's version of a story, and then there's what actually happened.
Right.
I gotta believe that in his mind, he embellished the hell out of this.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Just to, if nothing else, just to rationalize it in his own mind. Now, to your end, Dave, man, I should have, coulda, woulda, shoulda killed her, but I didn't. But man, if I had to do it all over again, I would have murdered that bitch.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what's going through this guy's mind.
Right.
But it's very interesting that this guy trailing this girl from a tree line down the river with plans in his mind to murder this broad, how this will end up becoming this guy's modus operandi relative to planning, relative to stalking, relative to everything when it comes to murdering people years later. In this case, this isn't just some guy that just wants to lash out with a knife. No, I'm going to take my time. I want to see where this goes. I want to plan this out. I want to see what happens. What's going to be my opportune time?
On Zapp's point, I believe that's the reason why he joined the Army. And actually, he was said to be a very good soldier. He did join the Army Rangers and went through about a month-long training class where he learned how to stalk, how to, find these people, go to different areas. So he did pass an Army Ranger training course. They said he was quiet. He kept to himself, didn't make many friends there on the old Army base. He would drink bottles of wild turkey, they said. That would be like his thing. They would always find him drunk. Like a lot of the other serial killers, the guy enjoyed drinking a lot, which, I don't know, just to forget like the thoughts maybe in your head, like an everyday.
Well, it's like Dahmer. He drank like that.
Yes, exactly. I think just to get the shit going on in your head, just to get that stuff out of there.
I think drinking turns the McDahmer triangle into the McDahmer pyramid.
Right.
It adds another corner to the
Completes
corner.
it. Completes it, yeah. And that's where he had, this is the part in the Army that I heard that those guys said he had the Insane Clown Posse poster. He was obsessed
all over.
with them.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to, but anyway, so yeah, he takes this stalking people, this hunting to another level. And he got that kind of training that really, the training only the U.S. Army or any other service could offer him. Just this is how you do it. This is how you look for people, find them, and then eventually kill them.
That's what I was wondering. Like, do you think he went in there knowing all that? Like, I can go in there and put this stuff to use? Or like the other thing I said about maybe going in there to actually end up, involved like in combat and murdering people, being able to kill people and do stuff like that? Or do you think it was just, I don't have anything else going on in life, let me just go in the Army? And like, I wonder what his logic was with it. If he was thinking that far ahead, like Zapp said, we know later on, he planned everything way ahead. Was he thinking about that?
Way ahead by months, he would plan.
And even years, I heard on some of them like that he had.
With a year
but
or so. Or
with the military, if he was thinking of like, I'm going to put this to use. I'm going to go in there and learn things that I'm going to use when I get out.
I want to learn how to kill people on the sly. And I mean the slyest of sly. How can I do this? That the Army is a great place to learn. And not for nothing. This is a great, parallel to a fine movie with Marky Mark, a.k.a. Mark Wahlberg, called Shooter.
Yes.
So in Shooter, he does all of this. He knows everything about this, and he's able to do it. And yet he gets pinned with the murder of this, that, and the other thing. Even better correlation, even better one is Jack Reacher, starring Tom Cruise.
Yes.
After his teeth have been fixed. Yeah. So Jack Reacher starring Tom Cruise. So Tom Cruise shows up as whatever the hell character he is, and he has to go in to, whatever he has to rectify, save, or, ultimately put away this guy that's been accused of doing this random mass murder. This is a guy, the guy that's laying in a hospital bed, who spent years over in the desert just waiting. And I mean just waiting. This is a trained killer. He can kill people from a mile and change away with one bullet.
Yeah, Keyes was actually a top marksman also.
Just waiting to kill somebody. And it goes to waste because in this movie, all right, well, time to go home. Thanks for nothing. And so we get to which came first, the desire to learn how to kill people, or, well, I'm already going to kill people, but maybe this might help me out.
Well, he knew the Army, they're going to pay him to learn how to kill people.
Bam.
Boom. Cha-ching.
Thanks, Joe Biden.
He did this.
Yeah.
So, in the meantime,
top shelf.
Our Israel Keyes here was arrested for a DUI from, the wild turkey, lots of bourbon.
They don't call it wild turkey for nothing, by the way.
Right.
They don't call it mild turkey.
That's true. He was given an honorary discharge from the United States Army, and he also received achievement medals for meritorious service from 1998 to 2001. So that was his time in the U.S. Army.
Did they say why he was discharged, or just?
No, he just got out. I mean, he was given a DUI, but that's not why he was kicked out of the service.
Which seems odd because it was a 3-year stint. He went in 98 and he got out in 2001. So I may or may not know a handful of people, probably closer to 10 people, that went into the military for whatever reason, either enlisted or as an officer. my understanding was that any kind of enlistment is going to be
4, I believe, right?
4 years.
Yes.
I'm no scientist, but 4 is greater than 3.
Yeah.
So why would he have gotten out? Again, I don't know how military works. I look forward to hearing from our listeners out there.
Yes, please.
What's going on? Is it 3 years? Is it 2 years? Is it, you pick your number
Or
of years?
could it be, if anybody's listening, could it be the DUI and they said, "Hey, you were a hell of a soldier. We'll give you the honorary discharge."
Let's negotiate. Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
I know a guy that might be moving near here. He might know.
Yes.
We could probably ask.
I call him lovingly the Colonel.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
He would probably know.
I can see Matt already sliding around on his seat, just waiting for the Colonel to show up.
Yeah.
The Colonel. We'll call him
the Colonel.
We'll call him Colonel Ketchup.
Yeah. But
Fascinating.
he would know.
Clue.
He would know. He'd be an expert.
He
on
would.
that.
We get him
But
on the
yeah,
horn.
like, I'm just wondering why you said it was an honorable discharge.
Go ahead, call him up, Zap.
I would call him Colonel Mayonnaise, given your anxiousness for this guy to get here.
The Colonel. He's moving right down the street.
Yeah. But it's good to
Lost
have an expert.
Colonel.
I mean, it's always good to have experts. We got Zap's an expert in money and everything else.
To
and
be clear,
many things, but
to be clear,
Just money.
Lieutenant Colonel.
okay.
Yeah, I know. That's a light. So he'd be Mayo Light. Going now.
You'd be like an egg minus the yolk.
Yeah.
Oh. But yeah, he'd be one to call on that.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, but I guess they
But I
never.
think that makes sense. What Zap said. I think he had the DUI.
Mm-hmm.
He was a good soldier. He had Meritus Awards for.
But the military will never tell you why, right? Somebody's discharged. It'll just say
It'll just say an honorary or dishonorable. Yeah.
dishonorable or honor. Okay,
I can't speak to that.
okay. Yeah.
That's also we can get.
You're saying on the exit papers?
Like public knowledge, like some like
Oh,
like
no,
Dahmer.
hell no.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like Dahmer was kicked out of the military, correct?
Yeah, for drinking.
But do we know that's why? That's what I'm saying with these guys that get kicked out.
So simply, what happens? You're going to go one of two ways. It's going to be honorable or dishonorable. If you get the dishonorable,
It's
good
bad.
luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, like good
It's
luck.
hard getting a job.
Good luck in life.
Very hard.
Right.
If it's an honorable, hey man,
Just
we're-
didn't work out.
Yep,
And that's
it.
what I gave him. I think DUI, drank too much. They're like, man, got rid of this guy. He's
It's
drinking
essentially
all the time.
pass fail. It's
Yeah.
pass fail.
Pass.
That's it.
Okay. All right. But just so we kind of know
Mhm.
if what it could have been.
Again, for our next podcast, we'll get the explanation for
Yeah,
that.
we'll have
will
it.
let you know. So, where are we at here? Keys moved to the Maka Reservation in the Nia Bay. Is that how you guys say that?
Macaw.
Maka Reservation of the Nia Bay. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. He was pretty quiet. And then 2007 came.
So he moved to the Macaw Reservation
Mhm.
community, which is an Indian reservation in the Washington area.
Yep.
Well, it's in Washington. It's actually northwest
it's-
Washington. It's like this
it's way up
weird
there.
little
hmm
Washington State.
peninsula.
Washington
Not
State.
DC.
Yes.
No,
No.
no Redskins,
Gotcha.
which would be the actual Indians on this reservation, with his daughter and the mother of his daughter.
So you hear nothing about. I really tried to look for stuff on her and nothing.
that was done on purpose.
Yes, I know that, but they didn't state.
I'm sorry
Anything.
for our listeners' sake. It was done on purpose because Israel took great steps to, after he was caught and after everything, he was absolutely adamant. Look, man, please keep my family out of this. Keep my daughter out of this. If nothing else, would you please, for Christ's sake, keep my daughter out of this?
Right.
So yes, to Matt's point, no, very few, if any,
Off the radar. You just don't.
yeah, know a goddamn thing about his daughter.
And it's fair. I mean, they had nothing to do with it. The daughter had nothing to do with it. She shouldn't be punished for what her father did,
Yep.
I believe that, but I'm sure there's some people that would
But
give her a
see,
hard
this-
time if they knew who she was.
But this guy's like a murderer, a killer. He planned these, and yet he still has like an instinct, which is weird that he can turn that on and off.
Well, I'm sure he cared about it.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
assume.
But he would like he adapt into society with his construction company. He started a construction company in
Which
Alaska.
I thought you were going to, I thought, not for nothing,
Mm-hmm.
Matt, when you had said, and then 2007 came. That was the year he started his construction company
Yes.
in Alaska.
Yes, that's what I was going
I got
into.
you. So,
but we
but-
took a pause.
I'm sorry, the way you had said it, I was like, oh my God, something bad's going to happen in 2007. Quite the contrary. Something fantastic started in 2007. Entrepreneurship.
Yes, the guy.
That's
he needed
that's
the
America,
money.
God damn it.
He needed the
Yep.
money. the money to funded his murders.
And it was like
So he could fly and buy the stuff he needed.
Keys Construction, right?
Yes, Keys Construction.
Keys Construction. And not for nothing, we need more tradesmen
Mm-hmm.
and entrepreneurs in this America.
Yeah.
We need them.
Just not
Please.
murderers, though.
Don't murder,
Yeah.
but definitely tradesmen
Mhm.
or tradeswomen
Yes, tradesperson.
Tradesperson.
and
yeah.
entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Please.
Business, yeah.
This is America. Do it. Make the most of it.
Right? Yeah.
Capitalism, baby.
So we'll try to, I guess, break this down. As in the beginning, Dave said, we started out with Koenig,
Mm-hmm.
correct? Was she a barista?
So, yeah, that was what, 2012.
Mm-hmm. So Keys has his construction company. And as a murderer, Israel Keys developed the perfect plans until he murdered in his own hometown of Anchorage, Alaska. This is where we started our story.
Mm-hmm.
All of the other murders took place across the United States of America. So it was hard to capture this guy because he did murders in several places.
And we don't know. I mean, they know a few of them that he had given them details on that they were able to, what's the word I'm trying to look for? Corroborate.
Correct. So I'm curious as to where this goes because there are, again, the alleged versus the claimed.
To claim, right.
The net between the two comes down to 3 confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
3 confirmed. Total of 3.
And those were before Koenig.
No, that includes Koenig.
Oh, including, so there were 2 before her.
2 before,
confirmed.
and then 1, and then her.
Right.
But between the allegations versus maybe just the shit talk that he was throwing maybe just throwing them off. Like for example, he would say, "Oh, well, I never go after mothers and children because
Yes, that was his thing.
I have a child and I have a mother of a child." But at the same time, some of these allegations that the police are throwing at him, he would say, "Oh yeah, I did that," or no, I'm sorry. He would claim to do other things that included the murder of children.
Right.
So he was all over
All
the
over
place.
the place.
We will find that this guy was, I don't want to say bipolar,
Mm-hmm.
but he was, he could be super Mr. Smiley Man one day and then mass murder the bad guy the next day.
And he did say that
just
in-
at the flip of a coin.
In interviews that he had the feelings of 2 people, or he was 2 people. I don't know if you saw that in one of his.
Well, that's what I was talking when we
Interviews.
talked about in the Night Stalker. Like I said, I wonder what he was like. Because nobody really, he was kind of a loner, and we don't know what he was like really as when he's not murdering and killing and breaking in and stuff. So with this guy, he had family members, he had coworkers, he had, so they kind of knew him as a person outside of all this stuff.
And,
So he was able to fool everybody.
Yeah. Well, the experts, they said he was a transient serial killer, is what they coined him as. Like, he would not kill in one place, and that it was hard to pinpoint somebody like that but as Zap would say, who knows where, I mean, just because you bury, like we'll talk about his little things that he put around these different, just because you do that or say you did things, there was really no evidence, because some of the stuff I'm sure that they were waiting for him to talk, and as he talked, they were like, this guy didn't do that. Like, he would have known stuff about it.
Yeah, talk about that. There were like murder kits, right? That he would,
Yeah, his murders were planned, and he would put out cachet cases or kill kits, and these would have guns, rope, handcuffs. Did you read about other stuff that he would have in there for?
it was basically the stuff you're saying. I know there's like duct tape and whatever. He had weapons in there, knives,
Yes.
stuff like that. And like Homer buckets, little Home Depot
Yep.
orange buckets.
Yep.
And he would take these around. He was willing to travel thousands of miles. He would set up these places where he would bury these cachets. Was that what they're called? Cachets?
Cachet, Shantae.
Shantae.
Yes. Cachet Shantaes, these kill kits. He'd bury them all over the place, some in like some dirt he would mark, or some in like the woods, some under rocks. So he kind of had like this thing where he would, travel, set these up. So that way when he would go places, I guess, he'd have
He wouldn't
these,
have to pack the stuff.
he'd have these kill kits.
And he would use the construction company as like, oh, well, that's why I'm traveling. I'm going here to, for construction work or whatever.
If nothing else, he could expense the cost of the buckets.
For
Very true.
construction, yeah. Because they have Homer buckets, they probably,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're going to be at Home Depot.
Mm-hmm.
They sell rope, they sell chain, they sell duct tape, they sell all kinds of shit there, man. Buy
Yeah.
it. They sell sharp implements.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, like they were saying, he had no particular people, that he had no MO for what he wanted to do or who he was going to murder. But then the more we talk about this, the more, as Zap was saying and you were saying, like, you don't know how many people he actually, there was what, 3 you said?
Counting
for.
Yeah.
So the way that this ultimately worked, there was one definite, which we started off with.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one caught red-handed. Yeah, you did this one. There were 2 he had confirmed after the police had alleged. So that's basically playing memory, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just, this side equal to your I declare war, right? So this side said this. Yep, I agree. Okay, boom. Then from there were a handful. I want to say, so he stated, as a for example, that he killed 4 people in Washington. He also stated that he killed someone in New York State. Let's everyone be clear on things just right now. The 2, absent the first, so 2 of the 3 confirmed. The bodies were never found. Never found. There was one that he claimed without a body, never found. And then there were, again, like at least a total of approaching 8 that were alleged that were either possible or that, again, the cop said this and he said, no, fuck off. That's not true.
Yeah.
So it's just stories versus stories. But what I can gather and glean from all of the information, for damn sure, there was a total of 3 confirmed, done.
Yes.
And I know there was one they said that he posed them like it was an accident.
Yeah, like they fell
That
something.
he made it look like the person died by accident, but he had murdered them, and he let them know about that particular one. Now, I don't know if they were able to connect the name or whatever, but he's like, yeah, I knew they were going to find this body and think it was an accident, but I actually murdered him.
I didn't see any of that shit.
Yeah, there was one other,
Honestly, I lost interest once I was doing the background check on this guy.
right.
Whenever I hear like he alleged this or the police alleged that, but whenever it ended with nothing could ever
Nothing could be
corroborated, I just lost interest.
And that's the thing. He would tell the police, he would come up with these stories like we're talking about now in his head, where he would say he looked at murdering like a secret mission, which he learned in the military, as if he was deployed into a certain area, given a mission to carry out. Like he played this game in his mind, like saying Jack Reacher or
Delta Force,
Sniper or Shooter.
The one,
Jack Sniper.
yeah,
Yeah, but he wanted to complete his missions, is what he was telling the cops, which the cops are like, maybe this guy's, but these stories, he just came up with these stories.
okay.
So yeah, this guy's got a construction business, and we're going to get into his murders, which Zap is going to start you on. So let's take us down a murder mystery tour here.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Come along to the murder mystery tour.
Yes.
I've got this Beatles track in my head and I just can't get rid of it. So on the topic of murders, as we were discussing, there was the concept of possibles versus definites. Again, he said versus she said, alleged versus confirmed or claimed, I should say. So amongst the possibles, there were 2 alleged by the authorities in Washington State. That includes Julie Harris and Cassie Emerson. So Julie Harris was a Special Olympics skier. She was 12 years old. She disappeared in 1996. Her remains were found a year later in the woods. Again, this is alleged by the police. With regard to Cassie Emerson, in June of 1997, her mom's trailer burned out with her, that is to say, her mom, still inside of it. Cassie's remains were found the next year, more than a dozen miles away. Road trip. Israel makes its way to Florida. Allegedly.
Yeah,
Again,
the first 2 murders, real quick, they said there were no arrests in either case.
0 arrests. Again, here we go. This is the police. No, well, hey man, let's just throw the book at them. These are unsolved. I should say, I hate to say unsolved because it's, God damn it, these prefixes. I have such a fixation with them. Un is the most misused prefix in the world as far as I'm concerned.
It works, though. You can use it.
It doesn't. It's, I would say, non-solved.
Non-solved.
Yet to be solved.
The 12-year-old girl, though, there was a connection with him. And
With
her,
hyphens.
Did they say the trailer? Something
Well,
like
no,
that?
with the 12-year-old girl from the Special Olympics, there was a connection with him and her. I guess that he did know her and was around, or
I think they're going to say in
it
the
wasn't
Special
like it was a
Olympics.
complete stranger. No. No, he had a connection to her somehow. It wasn't like a complete stranger. A 12-year-old girl.
The things that come out of Matt's mouth
I
just
know.
make me chuckle. Just
I didn't know. I didn't know if he competed.
No.
All right.
He was
easy.
He knew that girl. I know for a fact. They said that he had interactions with her and stuff like that. So I mean, they weren't looking at him back then for that, but I guess maybe now later in life they're connecting.
It could be like Steve Buscemi hanging out with that girl on the swing set in Con Air. Like once the plane lands and he's just, this crazy ass Hannibal type murder and he's just hanging out with a little girl. He doesn't kill her.
Just
He didn't do
hanging
it. He
Yeah.
just sees innocence. And according to stories by Mr. Keys, well, I don't want anything to do with murdering children.
Right.
Because I have a daughter myself, and
Mhm.
that notwithstanding, allegedly, according to police, he made his way to Florida. Again, allegedly. While in Florida, there were 3 murders they, again, allege were his. They called him the Boca something. The Boca murder.
Boca Killer.
Boca
Yeah.
Killer.
I saw that. Yeah.
Thank you, Mocha Coca.
Yes, Boca Raton, Florida.
Yes, Boca Raton. So the first alleged victim was Randy Gorenberg. In March of 2007, this woman was abducted from a shopping mall and later found with 2 bullet holes in her. After that was Nancy Bociccio and her daughter, again alleged by police. They were found fatally shot in a mall parking lot on December 12th, 2007. Now, do either of you remember back in the day? Now, we're talking 2007, so this would be 15 years ago.
Right.
Ish. Just shy of 15 years ago. I was reading about this cat, and I remember there was a fear of going to malls. There was a widespread fear, like, don't go to malls because you might get shot. There might be bad people there. There's a string of this, that, or the other thing. This is
2007.
yeah. But I don't.
I don't recall.
Am I the only one thinking that?
I don't remember that.
Like I was influenced by some kind of 24-hour news and
Maybe because I don't recall that. I mean, you talking about nationwide malls or just like locally?
so this was going down in Florida in 2007, and it was this, and then it happened again. After it had happened again, there was, well, if it happened once and it happened again, shit, it could happen a third time.
Right.
And so there was a scare out there, like, don't hang out at malls. Don't sit in a parked car in a mall parking lot. Like, don't be in the parking lot.
I do remember wasn't there 2 teenage boys? I don't know about what time it was that took the one child from the mall and killed him, like threw him in a dumpster or something like that. Do you guys remember that? I think that was around that time.
I'm not saying I'm not confusing them. In fact, knowing me, I likely am confusing them. I just remember there was a scare about going to
scare.
the mall.
Okay.
Like, don't go to the mall, dude.
I don't remember that. I know now the big scare is with trafficking and stuff. They say these guys hang out at Targets and other places, look for women, or young girls.
Young girl and try to steal them.
Yeah, like there's stuff on Facebook all the time about how these girls are like they'll signal to each other they'll be in like a Target by themselves and somebody will be following them and they're they almost got kidnapped and they're saying these traffickers are hanging out at. You
That's
always hear that
scary.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So maybe it was something along those lines where something maybe happened and it caught. But really things weren't, I guess 2007 social media wasn't as, so it had to have been on the news.
I'm sure. Knowing me, I'm sure that I'm mashing up stories.
Maybe.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But if nothing else, this reminded me of that or something that I
Right.
can't remember. So, Mr. Boca Raton, the alleged Boca Raton killer, made his way from there to New Jersey. Now, this one was claimed by Keys, no body. To be clear, no body was found. But this one, no,
Nobody but you. Yeah.
that's right. I ain't got nobody. I'm just a gigolo.
That goes to the ICP.
What's that?
The Juggalos.
Oh, Juggalos.
Yes.
I was thinking David Lee Roth, and I'm thinking, what? ICP? Insane Clown
Yeah.
Posse.
Yeah.
The Juggalos.
Their followers are the Juggalos.
Juggalos,
Yes,
right.
yes.
Yep.
Everywhere I go.
Yep.
Bobbity bop.
Just the juggalo.
Go ahead. New Jersey.
We come across Deborah Feldman in New Jersey. Again,
Corey's mom.
This
Yes.
was, yeah, it might have been. Probably not.
The Feldman.
Claimed by Keys, but there was no body ever found. So this would have been done in April 2009. Again, claimed by Keys. He buried her in New York. That's it. Like, he basically took her from Jersey, and then he drove her to New York, killed her on the way, buried her in New York. That's it. This was his claim.
This is also after police are sitting there quite like, hey, do you think you had something to do with this murder? Bring it up. And he's
Right.
like, and then they're telling him like stuff. He's all like, yeah, I did it. That was me.
This is one big spitball session. That's all it is.
And I heard like a lot of like his traveling. He would travel with no cell phone, just cash. So there was really no paper trail, like credit cards and different things.
Jesus, foreshadow. We're going to get there.
Oh, okay.
That was the whole bullshit thing with this guy. Like, he had all these things that he would say, like, oh, I didn't have a cell phone, or I didn't. Like, he had all this stuff in his mind that he's like the perfect murderer. But how, like you said, there's 3.
So
Crazy.
far, anything that I've talked about is he said versus she said. Nothing has been
Confirmed, right.
with respect to everywhere from, Julie Harris, the Special Olympian, all the way to Deborah Feldman in, Jersey, now
mom.
alleged by him, buried in New York. But now we get to the definites. These are for sure the definites. The first 2 at the same time definites were Bill and Lorraine Currier. This was alleged by police and equally corroborated by Keyes. On June 8th, 2011, in the state of Vermont, Israel broke into their house, tied them up, drove them to an abandoned farmhouse, shot Bill, raped Lorraine, and then strangled her. The bodies to this day have never been found. On the topic of the murder kit, this is one where the murder kit, this was where I first saw the mention of murder kit. So the handgun, rope, knife, tape, you name it, etc., goes into the orange Home Depot bucket with the orange Home Depot bucket lid, and it's buried under some rocks, or it's buried in the dirt, or it's buried in a small little alcove. He placed that little shit 2 years earlier. 2 years earlier.
Yeah, that's the one that I was thinking of. They said it was like 2 years ahead that he had planned.
You think that's why it's throwing authorities off? They're like, is this guy that good that he is messing with us? That's why, like, all of the, you said, don't say alleged or whatever, but
No, by all means, say alleged. Again, cops allege, and the criminal in this case is going to claim.
Yeah.
But where in the middle does the truth lie?
But with this murder, it's one of those things where, like, he planted this thing years in advance. He comes back for it. He committed these murders, grisly murders. There's rape. There's, killing right away. And then they're like, he did do more, or didn't he?
Right, but that's what I was saying about, like, I don't know, you said you'll get into it later about not leaving a paper trail. But then that helps him when he's committing these crimes and not get caught. But then if he wants to take credit for him later on, doesn't help for that. You know what I mean? That he can go, no, I did stay at this. I was in that area, and they can't really confirm, correct?
That's, in fact, after he gets caught.
Right.
In the meantime, while he's not caught, they're not catching him.
Right, because he's not leaving any,
Zero.
Right.
This guy's leaving zero trail until.
Sorry, real quick. Did you have anything about the couple that he killed in the farmhouse, correct?
Bill and Lorraine Currier.
Do you have anything about them demolishing down the road that farmhouse?
I ain't got shit on that.
Okay, so I think it.
Fun fact.
Do you have something about that?
Is this a fun fact?
Yeah, it's a fun. Well, not so fun fact, I guess. But when they were demolishing it, right, the guys that were there demolishing it smelled like
something,
a death smell, like that rotting body smell, and they were just like, "Oh, it must be an animal or something," and not knowing that there was a murder committed there. I don't know timeline if this was before or after he confessed. I'm assuming they demolished this before that, but the contractors or whoever was there demolishing this building were like, something stinks, like a dead animal maybe, or dead. But they didn't investigate. They just knocked everything down, took all the debris to a dump. Later on, he goes in. This all comes about. That story comes back up. They go to the dump to try to go through the debris because they remember that. And here those bodies were probably in that, buried in there somewhere.
Oh, I mean, if they were moved with the wood, sure.
Right.
But knowing this guy, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I think this guy was smarter than just to leave their carcasses hanging around.
That's another power of suggestion thing. I think they're telling these guys, hey, this is about a story, and all of a sudden they're on the camera there, and they're all like, "Oh, I smelled something. I know something was in there."
I
Like,
think Matt's
believe
absolutely
me.
right. Oh, hey, contractor guys. P.S. You're demolishing the murder house.
Oh, we smelled something. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, how ironic you should mention.
You're on TV. It's to be on a special. Oh, okay, yeah, I know all about it. I smelled something. I did. I was right there. I thought I saw a piece of bone too, but my friend thought it was an animal, so we buried it.
But they had never discovered the bodies, but they were able to. They definitely were missing. Or was there going back to that?
They never discovered
They,
the
just
bodies.
knew they
bodies.
were missing, and then he confessed to what happened, but they never found the bodies.
Years
Right.
after the murder, cops alleged he confirmed.
I gotcha. Okay.
Which the cops also, everything that they couldn't find and were trying to think of in an area, they would say, "Hey, this
They're
guy
just throwing the
might
book
be-"
at this guy. They're just throwing they're spitballing.
You were there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
mentioned
spitballing.
earlier.
Okay.
So then there was the third, definite, confirmed, and by far and away, the most known victim, Samantha Koenig,
Mm-hmm.
as we had mentioned earlier in this
In the beginning,
podcast.
right.
Yeah, everything comes back. This is an 18-year-old barista in Alaska. She was kidnapped from work on February 1st, 2012. Her hands were tied with zip ties. She was thrown into the back of his car, drove around for hours, drove her to his place, stashed her in a shed. Then he returned to her work, her little coffee stand, which basically looked like
Like a 1 hour
little
photo.
corner. Yeah,
like the 1 hour photo that was run over in Back to the Future by
Right.
the
yeah.
the Libyans.
Right.
It looked exactly like that in the middle of a parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
Drove back there to get her mobile phone.
Then he did something silly with like a text or something, didn't he?
I read that, but I could not corroborate that with
Okay.
any other source. So allegedly, as Matt had alluded, allegedly, Israel sent a text message from her phone to her boyfriend stating that she wouldn't be around for a few days, that she was going to hang out with friends. And that was it. Again, that is alleged. That was some whatever news source. I could not find that any place else. If I had found some other source that would have, indicated that same thing, I would have stated it. But I just can't. There
Make
could,
for sure.
yeah, there could be some internet sensation there, artistic liberty, as we call it.
Mm-hmm.
Needless to say, with her in the shed and with her phone in his hand, he ended up driving. This is true. Ended up driving to her boyfriend's house, took her debit card out of his truck because the two of them shared a bank account.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially, hey, look, man, your money, my money, one card. You're going to use it. I'm going to use it. It's it.
Did you touch the cruise yet? Are you there?
Not there.
Okay.
He ended up, after that, returning to his place, raped her, and then strangled her. She is now dead.
Mm-hmm.
He leaves her body in the shed and is soon that next day to depart for a cruise. He went to New Orleans and took a 2-week cruise in the Gulf of Mexico
With the family.
with the family.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
like
like the
no
whole
big
family.
deal.
Like, hey, let's all go on a cruise. We had a plan. I mean, they weren't going to get out of it then.
And
What'd
me-
you do last night, Israel? Oh, nothing. I just, hung around.
And meanwhile, in Alaska, it's cold, so that body's sitting out in the shed.
True.
And
Oh, yeah. It preserves.
yeah,
Yeah, there's no,
No,
the
not
stench,
much.
or it's not like it's in the middle of Florida or something like
no. I'd read that. I guess when they went back, when he got her back to the shed, and he was like, "Hey, give me your debit card and all that, and give me your PIN." She's like you said, "Oh, I don't have the card and all that." And I had heard that when he went to break into the boyfriend's truck, that the boyfriend came out while he was in the middle of it.
This is something else I had read,
But you
and
couldn't
equally something else I could not corroborate.
cooperate, right?
This was from, in fact, the same web source
Mm-hmm.
that had indicated that a text message was
Was
sent
sent.
from that phone to the boyfriend.
Okay.
And given the nature of that website, it
Mhm.
seemed sensational to me.
Right.
It seemed embellished.
Almost like making you think like, oh, if he could have stopped him there and could have never progressed past
Yeah.
that, basically.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, when we get back from the Gulf of Mexico after he's done with the whole family trip, what he did next, though, is very insane.
It
Like,
sure
if
is.
you would say that to someone, that sounds sensational. That sounds like something made up.
It does, and we can't wait to get there.
We are on our way.
But in the meantime, the concept of here's what I really think happened. This guy grabs this broad, takes her back to his place. He says, look, I want all the money you can possibly get me. It's 2012, for Christ's sake. Give me your ATM card. Well, I don't have it. It's in my boyfriend's truck. Okay, where's your boyfriend's truck?
Where's that at?
And what's the pin? And where's your boyfriend's truck? And so she has the shit scared out of her.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the card? Where's the truck? I'm going to go goddamn get it. And so he goes and goddamn gets it. That's it. So the concept of sending a message, hey, don't bother, honey, I'm going to be away with friends. Or B, while I was there breaking into your truck, you heroically came out and saw me, and then you went and called the cops and said there was a robber here, but nothing ever happened of that. Right. That shit never happened. I just think this guy was real short and sweet and to the point because he was so calculated.
Right.
This part, that the woulda, coulda, shoulda sound a little embellished. But look, again, I wasn't there. I'm no scientist.
Right.
I don't know how this works.
But he is getting sloppy though, doing this locally.
Indeed,
and all that.
he is getting sloppy because here comes the slop. Because when he returned to Alaska, this guy takes her frozen ass body out of the shed, applied makeup to her face, sewed her eyes open with fishing line.
Yep.
And then snapped a picture of her while there's equally in the side of that picture his hand holding a 4-day-old newspaper next to her. This is where she was basically posed to appear that she is still alive.
Where does he find this time? And like, where is like he has a wife.
Well, he owns that business. He probably has people
has
working for him, and he's just like,
Was this all done in that shed?
No, it couldn't have been.
I don't. Yeah, you have. That's what I said. I saw the picture. It's freaky.
So there's ladies and gentlemen, right now we're passing around a picture of the woman who had been, this again is in Alaska. She had been frozen for 2 weeks.
2 weeks
in his shed. This guy comes home, puts makeup on her, sews her eyes open with fishing line, snaps a picture of her while he is holding up a 4-day-old newspaper next to her, basically making it look like she's still alive.
Wasn't there something too with the way he did her hair? They said like the father and the people that knew her, like, yeah, he braided the hair, did something with her hair. Now you can't really see on this copy of this picture, but that they were like, she never does her hair like that. She would never have her hair like, but he did all this stuff with the makeup, like Zap was saying, and even the hair that to kind of make her look, obviously,
trying to look somewhat alive.
But the hair was one thing. They were like a little, what's up with that? She never does that to her hair.
So look, I got to tell you, as a third party who had nothing to do with this at all, let alone did I know what this woman looked like when she was, running around happy and clappy with her boyfriend.
Right.
As I look at this picture of this dead woman, which is widely available on the internet, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yeah.
This is a picture of a dead woman with a newspaper next to her.
Being held by the murderer.
Being held by the murderer. Like, she looks alive as fuck. Like, she looks very much alive. Like, she's just, hey, I'm just looking on. Do. It's a normal day. She doesn't look dead. And, maybe, I don't know how freezing works.
Right.
For preservation purposes, but damn. This picture does not look like a dead woman.
No.
At all.
No, I can see that.
It's weird. Oh, my God. So.
Going into the ransom.
After that, this guy, so with the picture in hand, this guy, with the Polaroid picture, now not the 110 and not the 35 millimeter, but the Polaroid. With the Polaroid, this guy sends a ransom letter demanding $30,000 be deposited into this girl's account. So
the ransom.
Well, this is amazing to me, right? So this is absolutely amazing. Now, I don't know at what point this guy lost his edge.
Yes, he lost his mind.
His edge of having been, which we will discuss at some point, like truly the details, but this guy had spent his murdering spree, what again could have been his murdering spree, alleged staying off the radar, right? Completely staying off the radar. This guy is now bringing computers, ink, and paper and all of this shit into the process. Like, dude, this is 2012. Have you not seen anything by now? Like, you know where this is going to go. You put this on the grid. Like, you're there.
He's sewing eyes open. It's like you said, taking pictures, putting newspapers, his hands in the photo.
This guy's unhinged. He's lost it.
Maybe
He's
he just wants to
absolutely
get
lost it.
caught at this point, maybe.
Or he wants to get 30 grand to get the hell out of Dodge.
I know they had heaters in there when he first got her there initially.
Mhm.
He
Shut him off for when he went to
when
vacation.
he left, when he went on but when he had her
For
there, keeping her-
preservation.
Yeah, and then when he got back, he
when
might
he-
have thought her out.
We had her there hostage at first when he went to the boyfriend's truck and all that. He had heaters on, and he was like tried to put her arms in a comfortable. He talked about that in the when he was talking to the police. But so yeah, maybe he thought her out. I don't
Jesus
know.
Christ. So he set her up like a mannequin just sitting there?
Yeah,
I
no.
guess
Well, no, I'm talking about when she was alive and he got her there and tied her up and was like, I'm gonna go. He said that he had heaters on and tried to keep her comfortable while he went. Put her hands. I forget if he said. I don't know if she smoked or if he said something about her smoking. I remember there was some talk of like he was tying her up, and I mean, but he was saying he was trying to keep her comfortable. He had the heaters on in there, put her arms in like a comfortable position, bind it like tied, but like in front of her maybe, and this and that. So when he left, obviously he turned the heaters off because she was frozen.
yes.
Yep.
But maybe he thought her out then whenever he got
I
back.
gotta believe you had to.
Yeah.
Have.
Yeah.
You had to. Have. I mean, you're talking about truly
'Cause you
the
couldn't-
concept of a stiff.
Mm-hmm.
This is a stiff. You're
Right.
moving a block of ice. Now you're trying to bend arms
Mm-hmm.
and open eyelids.
Open eyelids. No,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have happened. So yeah, he did. He cranked the heat up.
Cranked the heat up, took the picture, asked for ransom.
Where's the wife? I mean, the shed. If you
The
look
wife and and I know the daughter came out at one point too. and
yes,
was
because
knocked
the
on.
shed was within like 5 yards of the house. It wasn't very much room. It showed and it's a very small shed. I mean,
And he turned the music. So while she
Oh,
was
yeah,
there
that's
and
right.
still alive, he turned the music up way loud. Like, hey, honey, hey, little daughter, I'm going to be out in the shed,
working. Yeah.
doing some woodworking projects. I'm a whittler. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I'm a woodsman, craftsman,
making Pinocchio out
as it
there.
were.
Yeah.
Yeah. So him and Geppetto are out there making the next best, Cabbage
Yeah.
Patch Kid.
Mhm.
Next thing you know, he's got the music turned up way loud, just so nobody hears her screaming and pleading for help.
Playing ICP.
Yeah,
Probably
blame
something
somebody.
like
that.
All right, let's back to the story. Where are we at here?
So after the dismemberment, after the ransom request,
Man,
this
and-
guy's now on the road.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's got the ATM card.
Right.
This guy's got the PIN, and he's got the means to make, to collect some money. So on February 29th, 2012, this guy's driving around. He withdraws $500 from an Anchorage ATM. This is, again, using that, that debit card. On February 30th, the next day, he withdrew an additional $500 from a different ATM in Anchorage. Not but a week later, March 7th, he withdrew $400 from an ATM in Wilcox, Arizona. That same day, March 7th, he withdrew $80 from an ATM in Lordsburg, New Mexico. 2 days later, March 9th, he withdrew $480 from an ATM in Humboldt, Texas. 2 days later, March 11th, he withdraws again $480, this time from an ATM in Shepherd, Texas. So for everyone listening along here, you see the pattern where this guy is going. This guy's just on a road trip. He's, making his way from wherever down to wherever. I mean, this guy is on the move.
I think he said he was going obviously way south and then east. Is that
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy, to be clear, he drove from Anchorage down the West Coast and made his way through to his next stop was Arizona, again, like a week after. Then to New Mexico, then to Texas. This
Which is a
guy's
big
just
trip.
circling around.
That's a long trip.
Shit, yeah. Oh, my God.
Wow.
Well, I know that the banks locally there in Alaska that they were trying to work with the banks. They were getting a ping whenever and they
Yes,
were
he
trying
would
to
hit.
catch him, but it's just it would happen so fast, and by the time he would be gone.
And he didn't have a cell phone.
Right.
He wouldn't use the cell phone. So they were just pinging the different stops that he made.
Well, yeah, they didn't know. They wouldn't have known his cell number at the time yet, or they wouldn't have known his cell phone at that point, but they knew the card. They were looking for the card to be charged.
Yeah,
Like,
the ATM.
he's at this ATM, and like literally within minutes he would be gone.
Let's not forget that this is not necessarily the Stone Age.
Mhm.
Like, this is only 10 years ago.
Right.
So this cat is driving around in a car using that is a singular ATM card. They have cameras, man.
Right.
They've had cameras for decades before you were doing this, man. What are you doing? Like, you're blowing it. You're doing it wrong.
He knew he was going to get caught after that one.
So certainly by now, the police know what he looks like. They know what the car looks like. And all of this is thanks to ATM footage. I mean, from the gate, there have been cameras in ATM. They've been looking at your eyeballs and your face and your nose and all of your features from the day they were installed back in the 80s. Anyway.
It says, yeah, during the time, the police controversially refused to release surveillance video of Koenig's abduction.
Yeah, I did hear about that. I did read about that too. That they didn't want to put out the video showing her in the coffee stand or whatever, and him coming through the window and all that. But,
That's thoughtful.
yeah.
Just like a quick little fact I just read there. Sorry, go ahead. Keys was arrested.
So then on March 13th, Keys was busted in Lufkin, Texas for doing three miles over the speed limit. Now, again, the cops already knew what the car looked like, so they just had a feeling. But yeah, they busted him. Not busted him, but their purpose, hey, man, you're in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. You're doing 28 miles per hour. So cops pull him over, and as they're talking to him, they ended up searching the car because they noticed some cash in his car that had been stained with the ink that would otherwise indicate that it had been stolen from a bank. Now, I hope that everyone has seen Raising Arizona, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
there's these little things that if you steal money from a bank, I promise you the teller's going to throw this little ink bomb in there and it's going to go the fuck off. And all of that money is going to turn a completely different color.
You
And
can't
nobody's
use
going
it.
to
Nobody's going to accept
You
it.
cannot
nobody's
use
going
it.
to take that money at all.
No.
So they saw some of that money hanging around in this guy's car. Like, this guy's just sloppy. So they, pull him over. Hey, man, let me see your license. Oh, shit, you've got this blue. Let's say blue is the color of the ink. You've got this stained cash laying on your seat. Get the hell out of the car.
Yeah, that's search. That is
that's absolutely grounds for search.
yes,
So
reason for search.
then they search the car and they find rolls of cash and rubber bands. They find a piece of a gray T-shirt cut out to make a face mask. They find a highlighted map with routes through California all the way to where he was going, through California, Arizona, New Mexico. They find the stolen debit card, and they find Samantha Koenig's phone. So this guy's busted. This guy's absolutely busted.
Yeah, they said that they were able to, in the one ATM camera, they were able to get a picture of the white. It was like a white Ford. Was it a Ford Fusion maybe, or the vehicle he was in?
It was a white Ford, I thought Focus.
Maybe
I
Focus.
thought they were going to say Bronco.
But no, they were able to get a snapshot, so they knew what car they were looking for. And I thought that they had spotted that car at like a hotel or motel. And
Holiday Inn.
Holiday Inn, yeah.
Say what?
And then they kind of focused in, no pun intended, on the car, but on that car.
Oh.
And saw the guy hanging out looking down at the car. And then when he left the parking lot, that's when they tailed him, I guess. And we're waiting on anything, like just break any rule.
And that's
law.
what Zab said. He didn't even have to break the law. They were
Right.
going to pull him over
Right.
anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it looked, hey, let's check. Oh, look at this.
Well, I also heard when they asked for his ID.
Hey, man, your mirror's crooked.
Right.
Step on out.
When they got his ID and it was Alaska, they knew right away too. As soon as because they already
Yes.
knew what they were looking for, so they knew. They definitely knew.
Surprised they didn't shoot him.
Why not?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I would have been, I don't know what he would have on him. I don't know.
Well,
or
I
at least
mean,
tase him.
I mean, I
Not
don't
shoot
know.
him. I should. Shooting's a little.
But was he being during the stop? Was he being what do you call it?
I don't know.
Uncooperative or
yeah,
like
I wouldn't have trusted it.
aggressive? I think he was kind of like initially, from what I heard, is that they kind of went through regular protocol. And then he got
Yes.
defensive about it, like this and that. Once he knew, basically they had him.
Or so no,
So
when
once they
they, like-
searched the car, it's over. So
He could have gotten, touched,
right,
like strip searched. No touching.
right.
No touching.
No touch though.
So they got him now.
Yeah, so they got him.
They got this guy.
So, it's interesting. There's I wanted to touch on just lightly, and I want to breeze over this just really quickly. As you know, during his arrest and incarceration and the back and forth, this guy was of course going to be associated with other crimes, not just the murders, again, alleged versus claimed that we'd spoken about earlier, but during the back and forth, as this guy is either telling stories or admitting to stories or telling the cops, fuck off with your stories, he had ended up confessing to robbing a bank in New York, which was confirmed.
Right.
They did have photos of him.
He
Correct.
also, but equally, now, so that is true. Matt, that is absolutely true.
Okay.
This is a photo of Israel Keys. We have a picture of you in this bank robbing the bank. Yeah, I did that one. Then he also confessed to robbing a bank in Texas, which was not confirmed. This is essentially, yeah, I also robbed the local,
While I was at it.
the local
yeah.
Plano bank, Bank of Plano in Texas, or Austin National Bank in Texas. Well, shit, did you? Because we don't have any record of that bank ever being robbed or blah, blah, blah. Again, this is just this guy. All right, well, you got me this, fuck off. I'm just going to tell you other stories. We'll see. We'll see what sticks. Doesn't matter. It was mentioned. Oh, he mentioned that he had burglarized and burned down a house in Texas. So he'll claim that, but yet an FBI report equally alleges that he burglarized 20 to 30 homes across the United States and robbed several banks between 2001 to 2012. So we spoke about this earlier. This is just a reiteration of, look, man, we got this guy, murdering and doing this ransom thing with this one girl. Now we got him for this couple that he had, did in Vermont. Fuck it. We're going to throw the book at this guy. This is every, yet to be solved crime that we have in our roster. You could really do a lot of people a lot of favors if you just took credit for all of these things.
Did you guys see his shitty beard he had in the disguise?
Yeah,
That was so bad,
Did
dude.
you hear about that?
So bad.
Did you hear about that? His beard.
No.
So they were talking about his disguise and stuff, and it obviously looked fake, the beard and the hair and everything
For
else.
damn sure.
And they mentioned something about the disguises and this and that, and he's like, well, there's ways to get free hair. So basically, he was insinuating he was taking the hair from the victims that he murdered to make like fake facial hair beards and stuff like that. Yeah.
He's just being creepy.
Right.
He's just being creepy. So I'm sorry. So I did want to go down that path because we had spoken about it earlier.
Right.
Where, again, they're throwing they're spitballing.
Let's just try to pin what we can on
Yeah.
him.
And at the same time, he's just fucking with them.
Yeah.
I'll claim this one when maybe it was true or maybe it wasn't, or I'll deny this one when maybe it did or didn't happen. Either way, this guy gets arrested. Again, confessing to some crimes, didn't confess to others, and he may have just been telling stories. He wanted to, after his arrest, he had wanted to avoid publicity for damn sure. So his daughter could avoid any negativity possible from her peers, her school kids. Like,
She could grow up
hey, yeah, that's
like a regular kid.
that's right. That's the girl with the dad who did this, that, and the other thing with the other people and blah, blah, blah. Yet he, again, wanted to avoid that as much as he could. But he ended up shutting up, like completely clamming up once he had found out that his story had made the news. So that whole request went out the window on May 23rd, 2012. So we are now 2 months in after his incarceration. He tried to escape after he had picked the lock on his handcuffs using wood shavings. And we'll talk a little more about that later.
But then, police used the taser to subdue him. Then,
Yeah, he
that's
got
when he broke
tased.
it out. Yeah,
He got tased.
When he was in court, you're talking about?
Yep. So this guy's in court. Dude picks his lock with wood shavings, which God bless him, man. That's I get it. This is a terrible, terrible, incredibly awful human being, but I think it's cool to be able to pick a lock with wood shavings. Yeah, man. I'm gonna give the guy credit.
Did you know, we referenced earlier who his hero was Ted Bundy?
Which I was going
Who
to use.
escaped.
I was going to use
Yes.
as a fun fact, but hey, man, let's just get it all out there now.
He was
Yes.
an escapist.
Yeah, so he was basically, that's what Ted Bundy did in court, same type thing. And they were just trying to draw the parallel that he
Wasn't
probably
Bundy
did
like
it.
he was like, I need to use the bathroom. Is there any or something like that? And he jumped out the window. It was like a 2-story window.
Yeah, he tried to get
or
out.
3-story window. Yeah.
Watching that thing on Bundy, he did the same type stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know that was done countless times in The Simpsons.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Countless times. Homer people just randomly jump out a window. Every single one of that is a homage to Ted Bundy having done the same thing,
Oh, really?
just jumping out a goddamn window.
Yeah.
But yes, indeed. So this cat idolized Ted Bundy. He for sure idolized Ted Bundy, and this whole escape with the shavings, the wood shavings mirrored that of Ted Bundy.
So Ted Bundy did the same thing with the wood? Or
Ted Bundy did it first.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that
I
part.
didn't know
of
he
it.
did the wood thing.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
So May 23rd, he tried to do the Ted Bundy, got tased. And then on that fateful day, December 2nd, 2012, he was found dead after having committed suicide by cutting his wrist and an attempted strangulation in his prison cell.
So he's trying to hang himself in there.
He tried to end himself any way he could, from what I can read. It's tough for, I should say, anyone to corroborate that strangulation had anything to do with it. The guy ended up cutting his wrists with a razor blade and just lost a shit ton of blood. They found him dead. But they also did find like his bed sheets, like that he had wrapped around his neck. But anything minus a noose, like good luck.
Right.
I just don't know that the human body's able to make that happen.
Right.
Now think about that, right?
Strangle yourself.
Yeah. What are you
that's
gonna
what
do? Like, so pick your right or left hand, wrap a towel around or a sheet around your neck, and now hold it out, and you're going to strangle yourself. Something's going to give first, and
There's that natural reaction.
I bet it's going to be your hand.
Right.
Yeah.
And then do you have 7 years later in 2020 where you have that?
Well, I can tell you that what he did do in what they did find were they found drawings of 11 skulls. It's believed that the number of skulls correlates with what are believed to be the total number of his victims.
He did those drawings in his cell
He did those drawings in his cell.
With his own blood. I believe he just
during
had,
the suicide.
I believe it was because he had the blood going, drew the 12 or 11 skulls, and I just think it was he just had extra blood, so he's just like, I'm going to keep drawing.
Drawing my.
Till
Is this a 20 years
pass
later
out.
thing?
Yes. It
Yep.
wasn't 20 years later. It was in 2020.
2020.
So like 7 or 8 years later.
What Matt means is that 20 years later, the FBI revealed that fact.
Oh,
Yes.
it came out.
But
Okay.
in reality, they found it on the day they found him.
And just didn't release it.
They didn't release it until that many years later.
I got you.
So,
You
yeah.
knew that, didn't you? You read that?
I did know that part about the skulls and the blood, but I didn't know when that came out. I read that it happened in the cell. I just didn't know if it.
Yeah, they
if
released it years later.
I thought maybe when you were saying that it was something that they found in 2020 or whatever. Maybe he had hid somewhere.
Right, like
Yeah.
another gun bucket,
Right. Yeah.
death bucket,
and then one of the drawings
bucket head.
included the phrase "We are one." That was written on the bottom,
Right,
as in
right.
like them and I are now finally one.
Well, Matt and I were watching that documentary on the buckets, and they had pictures of actual crime photos of one of the buckets that they did find, and we were like talking like if anybody's in that area at all, like I don't know how they didn't see it. It wasn't like that well hidden. Like it would stand out. It's bright orange in color, and it's, that type.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe like I don't know what area that was, and maybe there's people there
It
through
looked
there.
like it was on a trail though, like a hiking trail or someplace that people would see it. It didn't seem like so hidden.
Does anybody have the amount of those that they did recover?
The number of buckets?
Yeah.
I got no count.
Yeah, I don't either. I was just curious.
I know that there was more than one.
Right. There were for sure more than
Less than 50.
one. Is that right?
More than one, less than
Yeah.
50.
I can't confirm.
Yes.
No.
Nor deny that fact.
They had also found a suicide note from this guy, which was really more of a story than a suicide note. And it was entitled An Ode to Murder. Did either of you get the chance to read that?
I heard a
No.
snippet of it, but I didn't hear the whole thing.
I mean,
It was like a poem almost.
there is certainly poetic elements to it. Like there's rhyming. I can't say I can figure out his iambic pentameter in this, but I mean, it's for damn sure something funky. Like it's, yeah. I mean, I'd be happy to read it to you, but otherwise, I encourage everyone to go out there and look this one up. Like it's
There was like
it's pretty scary.
like read a little part of it just out of curiosity.
I mean, look, I'll tell you what, I'll read the whole thing. You can cut and paste what you do or don't want to include.
Okay.
Where will you go, you clever little worm, if you bleed your host dry? Back in your ride, The night is still young. Streetlights push back to the black I-neat rows. Off to the right, a graveyard appears. Lines of stone. Bodies molder below. Turn away quick. Bob your head to the seat. As straight through the stop sign you roll. Loaded truck with lights off slams into you broadside. Your flesh smashed as metal explodes. You may have been free. You loved living your lie. Fate had its own scheme. Crushed like a bug, you still die. Soon now, you'll join those ranks of dead, or your ashes the wind will soon blow. Family and friends will shed a few tears. Pretend it's off to heaven you go. But the reality is, you were just bones and meat, and with your brain died, also your soul. Send the dying to wait for their death in the comfort of retirement homes. Quietly, quickly, say, it's for the best. It's best for you, so their fate you'll not know. Turn a blind eye back to the screen. Soak in your reality shows. Stand in front of your mirror and you preen. It's a plastic castle you call home. Land of the free, land of the lie, land of scheme, Americanize. Consume what you don't need, stars you idolize. Pursue what you admit is a dream. Then it's American die. Get in your big car so you can get to work fast on roads made of dinosaur bones. Punch in on the clock and sit on your ass, playing stupid-ass games on your phone. Paper on your wall says you got smarts.
Sounds like Shallow.
The test that you took,
Jeez.
the test that you took told you so. But you would still crawl like the vermin you are once your precious power grid's blown. Land of the free, land of the lie, land of the scheme, Americanize. Now that I have you held tight, I will tell you a story. Speak soft in your ear so you know that it's true. You're my love at first sight, and though you're scared to be near me, my words penetrate your thoughts now in an intimate prelude. I looked in your eyes. They were so dark, warm, and trusting, as though you had not a worry or care. The more guileless the game, the better potential to fill up those pools with your fear. Your face framed in dark curls like a portrait. The sun shone through highlights of red. What color, I wonder, and how straight will it turn, plastered back with the sweat of your blood?
Yeah, that last part there.
We're not there yet.
Oh, it's still
That's like 2/3.
Holy shit.
Your wet lips were a promise of a secret unspoken, nervous laugh as it burst like a pulse of blood from your throat. There will be no more laughter here. I feel your body tense up, my hand now on your shoulder, your eyes. Forget the lady called Luck. She does not abide near me, for her powers don't extend to those who are dead. My pretty captive butterfly, colorful wings my hand smears, punishment and tears. Violent metamorphosis, emerge my dark moth princess, come often and worship on the altar of your flesh. You shudder and try to shrink far from me. I'll have you tied down and begging to become my sweetie. Okay, talk is over. Words are placid and weak. Back it with action, or it all comes off cheap. Watch close while I work now. Feel the electric shock of my touch. Open your trembling flower, or your petals I'll crush.
Jeez.
So this guy had time on his hands, man.
I was going to say.
This guy had some time on his... Okay, well, he's in prison.
Yeah,
Right.
he was in prison,
Yeah.
locked up.
I heard like a excerpt from that they played. That part about plastering the hair back with the sweat of your blood and all that.
Your face framed in dark curls like a portrait. The sun shone through highlights of red. What color, I wonder, and how straight will it turn? Plastered back with the sweat of your blood.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
part.
I think you meant that part.
That part was the one that I heard. That, I mean, obviously, like you said, this guy had a lot of time on his hands. But
Too much.
I mean, he's on some, life sentences, blah, blah, blah. Dude's on death row.
Guy's got a lot of-
He's almost, or his wife was almost single.
right, he had a lot of thinking to do, I guess. But definitely a sick individual.
For sure. There's so fun fact about this guy. He actually preferred strangulation over guns.
Yes.
He actually derived enjoyment from watching his victims lose consciousness while they were dying. Versus, just a gunshot, it's over.
Right. He was definitely the, what's his name? Stripe. They were like gremlins.
For Gremlins, absolutely.
Yeah, he was definitely Stripe.
Yes.
But, yeah, that was crazy, man. And it's so close to current time. I mean, this is 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, but stuff like that's still going on.
Yeah, one of the newer ones on the show.
Right.
For one of the younger. The youngins, more recent.
Yeah.
It is, it's interesting. I think Matt had alluded to this earlier. His victims were random. So they were absolutely random. There were no similarities or underlying commonalities with any of them. There were no connections at all to his victims. He planned these murders way in advance.
I believe they were all people,
months,
though.
Months.
Right.
Indeed, they were all people.
all just people.
Except for the
cat.
The cat.
Yeah.
Poor cat.
And the deer that he skinned alive.
In front of his friends.
Yeah.
Let's not
But
forget.
then again, go ahead. Yeah, he was saying it's hunting.
Right.
It was
They grew up with
but
that.
to skin
They
him
needed to
alive.
eat. Yeah, that was
man. So this is not the another corner of the pyramid that just because you were a hunter because you had to eat would also make you potentially a mass murderer, or not even mass, just a murderer.
He said
later in life.
Everyone's moving, everyone's grooving, skinning alive.
Skinning alive.
Yeah.
Let us
Skinning
pray.
alive.
Right.
In the meantime, so this guy took great measures, again, just to avoid detection. It's amazing that this guy let it all go with that last murder. He kept his phone off all the time. He used only cash, no credit cards, no bullshit. But yet, here's this guy doing shit with an ATM card.
No credit cards with the ATM cross country.
Right. Why? What did you let go? And he never murdered in the same area.
Yeah, that's what's crazy is here at the end, like he did all this traveling, rented cars, drove everywhere, but now all of a sudden he decides to do all this and be so sloppy.
No, the
As
guy.
a great for example, this guy flew. He flew from Alaska to Chicago. He drove from Chicago to Vermont for the killing of the couriers, that couple. Jesus. I mean, again, he's not shitting where he eats, right?
Right.
But this guy took great measures to just kill away or just never in the same spot. It's, I guess, one thing that, as we talk about this guy and the dichotomy that is this guy, right? So he took all these measures, but yet at the end, fuck it. He just went for it.
You think it was cockiness or just sloppiness?
I think the minds just, the man with two brains, they just started melding together.
Right.
I think he just talked a lot of shit. And then when it came down to actually doing a murder or something, he had all these big plans. He had all these kits put everywhere. Only 3 that they can look at and say that he actually has done. But I just think he was a shit talker. He tried to act like he was some sort of like big mega mind murderer. And I just think his sloppiness was just him just trying to do what he thought he needed to do and got caught.
Yeah. It's
Maybe. I don't know.
Who knows? I know that one interview I had read with him, and I'll end for Matt's sake with this one. During an interview, he had stated, there's no one who knows me or who has ever known me, who knows anything about me, really. They're going to tell you something that doesn't line up with anything I tell you because I'm 2 different people, basically.
So he's, basically telling you that he's probably bipolar, like you said, or has 2 personalities.
That's
or,
one of the stories was saying that he had.
Or, to
2
Matt's credit,
just playing the game.
He's just playing a game.
Just fucking with you, yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
He's dead.
Yep.
He bled out.
Yep. Thank God, because he was a sick individual, and I'm sure there's more out there like that, but
Which a lot of criminal psychs get all pissed about that when they kill themselves because then they can't pick their
they
minds
can't
apart.
investigate, and all that. But I appreciate both you guys doing all that research. And
Thank you.
us.
I want to take this special moment to thank Matt.
Thank Matt, yes, for
leading
bringing
us.
this.
No,
Thank you.
This was a great guy. I had never heard of this guy before this whole endeavor. I loved digging into this guy and looking all over the place for anything I could find on this guy. Like, this guy was a crazy dude.
Yeah, the one that I heard before you brought it up, Matt, only dealt with the girl and the
Koenig.
The Koenig murder. There was no talk about his childhood. There was none of that.
Yeah.
That was a whole cool aspect to hear. And then they didn't touch much on the couple in the one. I heard it on a podcast, and it was done in like 40 minutes. So obviously they weren't able to,
They
everything
didn't
that we
delve.
covered. Yeah, but they mostly covered the coffee,
Yes.
the girl that got
The main
murdered
one and
all
how
that.
he was caught.
Right. But yeah, there was so much to cover there. I appreciate both you guys doing that. I don't know what we're doing next week. I'm sure we'll come up with something interesting.
Yeah, we'll find
we always
somebody.
do.
But there's a lot of murders out there, some newer ones. I know we done a lot of older ones, but there's also some, I'm not to say murders, true crimes, whatever.
Yeah.
There's some interesting ones out there. If you look and check out the internet a little bit.
There's
If anybody
always
has any
something.
ideas,
Yeah.
send us something.
Yeah, interact on that Facebook page. We have Instagram. Facebook's probably the best.
Suggestions welcome.
Yes, for sure. And don't forget to check out our Vintage Cinema reviews every Thursday on as well. And check that poll out over there. Thanks to Zap. Thanks to Matt. I guess that's it for now.
Thanks to Dave.
Oh, thank you
Yes,
guys.
thank you, Dave.
So we'll catch you where?
On the flip side,
If we don't see you sooner, we'll see you later.
peace. Thanks for hanging out in the Old Dirty Basement. If you dig our theme music like we do, check out the Tsunami Experiment. Find them on Facebook. Their music is available streaming on Spotify and Apple, and where great music is available.
You can find us at Old Dirty Basement on Facebook and Instagram, and at Old Dirty Basement Podcast on TikTok.
Peace.
We Audi 5000.